Charlotte Hornets are discussing an extension with Brandon Miller and telling everybody what their new direction is. They also come out and talked about exactly why they felt now was the time to trade LaMelo Ball and set the new direction for this team. The question being, are they on an actual path to playoff relevancy, or did they just trade a star without a real replacement? We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, Josh talking about what the Portland fans can expect from him. And Milwaukee keeps Gary Trent Jr. on a 4-year, $64 million deal. Was this an overpay for a small depth rotational player? We're talking about all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Full Court Podcast. My name is Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at the Full Court YT on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today, y'all. And so Brandon Miller is talking extension with the Charlotte Hornets. This one comes from ESPN. There should really be no surprise about it. Like, I think, they made a clear direction in where they're going now since trading LaMelo Ball. The president of basketball operations, Jeff Peterson, said this: I've had conversations with Brandon and his representation. They know that we want Brandon here for a very, very long time. I've been very pleased with the way he's attacked his rehab. He's in the gym constantly. He knows he has to continue to work on his body and get stronger, and he's taken that to heart. We know that the Charlotte Hornets hit a major reset this offseason, which we're going to talk about because we got more detail in regard to why they felt comfortable doing that. But this is the place where you should lock Brandon Miller in. Like, Brandon Miller's a player that's homegrown. You've drafted him. He's gotten better every single year that he's been there, and those are the type of players that you want to reward. Plus, on top of that, you have the added wrinkle now of moving into a new direction with the franchise after trading away what has been your star in LaMelo Ball. You had a player in Kon Knueppel who had an absolutely rookie of the year caliber season last year for what he had. And the Charlotte Hornets really looked like they took a step forward as a franchise last season. And that's really what you've been waiting to see. Brandon Miller in his third year, 20 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 3.3 assists, shooting 43% from the field, and a career best 38% from three, taking the most three-pointers he has in his career as well, second most three-pointers he had in his career as well. So you love to see that. This is a guy that is flirting with being a 45, 40, 90 player, which is it's crazy in regards to the shooting that he's able to do. And he played out of position a lot last year as well to kind of help fit what that team needed. Now your position is going to make a little bit more sense as well. And so now, moving on from LaMelo, that Brandon Miller is going to be expected to step into an even larger scoring role last year. His size, his scoring ability, the ring profile, it's modern in the NBA. And so building around Brandon Miller and Kon Knueppel, it gives them a much cleaner direction long-term moving forward, which we'll talk on. But the side of this that people should say that maybe the Charlotte Hornets should be a little bit patient in regards to this is he is recovering from a major shoulder surgery, and he is out as it stands right now, right? But I think with all this is that, the Charlotte Hornets, the one thing is that they don't have a true focal point yet that you look at as on paper. And teams that do it by committee, how far do those teams really go? Now, are you expecting one of these players to stand out as a star? Maybe that is Kon Knueppel, what he comes out with. But the Hornets, right now, they're negotiating, and they should be in this conversation with Brandon Miller because you're going to let him go for nothing? Hell no. That shouldn't even be a question or an option on the table for them right now. So they're doing the right thing and having these conversations with Brandon Miller, and we're going to see where it's going to come out in regards to that one. But we even got more details as well from ESPN on why the Charlotte Hornets reportedly felt comfortable moving on from LaMelo Ball. Now, this was in the same interview that came out that they were talking about the extension for Brandon Miller. And said this: these decisions are challenging at times, but when you look at the totality of the season and everything that we were, it's important to take an honest look in the mirror of where you guys are as a team. And that's what I had to do at the end of the season. And it just felt like the goal is never complete for a play-in spot. The goal isn't to get to the play-in or even the playoffs for 1 year. I've said it plenty of times since I've been here in Charlotte. The goal is to get to the playoffs and stay there for a long term and eventually contend and compete for championships. Getting Naz Reid when you can get a player of his caliber and, of course, the draft capital and flexibility just felt like it was something that was able to achieve multiple goals in one transaction. It's my job to not just look at half of last season or 2/3 of last season. I've been here for a little bit over 2 years now. So looking at the totality of the picture and also looking at trends around the league, LaMelo was tremendous in our system last year. He was extremely impactful, and I know he's going to do great in Minnesota. But for the Charlotte Hornets, just felt like it was the right time to execute a trade of that magnitude. So it seems like they saw the value that was out there on the market, the place that they are right now, getting Naz Reid back, an unprotected 2033 pick, 3 second-round picks, and 3 pick swaps. It felt like the deal that gave them the draft capital, the flexibility, and a move in the roster that helps their front court. Like the Charlotte Hornets, say what you will about the team, their front court rotation, I'm extremely excited for. Not to say that I'm not excited to see how the Brandon Miller, Kon Knueppel, Coby White kind of work out as the scorers there on that team. But that front court rotation of the Charlotte Hornets, they've done a lot to revamp that over the last couple of years, going back to when they got, Ryan Kalkbrenner last year. But now you have Naz Reid, Haize Steinbach, you have Moussa Diabate, Ryan Kalkbrenner in there as well. Like, that's going to be a very interesting rotation in that front court to really help add some defense and two-way play to that team, which we've seen sometimes with teams. It's about not necessarily, you don't need necessarily the star power. The depth is really what helps you, and that's what it is. So the question now becomes about, is this new core a better foundation, or is just the star power too much of a downgrade for them? That's the real question here for the Charlotte Hornets. They have to ask. I think they made the right move. For what it's worth, the value you look at around the league, how not a lot of players are getting a lot of unprotected first. You got an unprotected first. That's a lot more than some teams can say, right? And at the same time, I can understand the point where people say, well, the Hornets need to do that move right now. That deal has still been on the table next year. You get another year of seeing that core together. Maybe, right? But they were able to keep Coby White too. They had his bird rights to do that. I think the new core just makes sense. Brandon Miller, Kon Knueppel, it gives you scoring and shooting on the outside. Naz Reid brings the front court depth. Coby White helps fill the void of a player like LaMelo Ball to a degree. He's not as good of a scorer, but he helps fill that void a little bit with being able to be more of a complementary player as well, and that not having the salary cap that you need to have regards into it. And like I said, I think they've done a really good job in their front court as well. So, star level creation is going to be a question for them, but they'll figure it out. I think they really will figure it out as it goes on. But let me know what you guys think on that part down below. Ja Morant. Going to Portland, Ja Morant's already talked about how he's gotten in touch with nature to kind of find some things to do, but he promises to show Portland a different Ja, saying this. What would I like to clear up? I think you know the answer to that. My image. I'm a bad guy. I'm Ja. I've done what I've done in the past, but it's been addressed and handled already. I don't see why years later that's still a topic when nothing's happened since. If I was that guy, y'all wouldn't be talking to me now. I wouldn't even be here. New home, new team, new organization. I get to show the fans of Portland a different Ja. It's like starting all over again. Over the years, I've grown a lot and learned a lot. My mindset changed. I got into things differently now. I feel more mature, and I'm ready to work. So Ja is in this place where he's gone over the last 3 or so seasons from being somebody that was talked about could be the next face of the league to, being looked at as the problem child in the NBA. And that's just the reality of it. And so, you of course hope that this is going to be a fresh start for Ja. He enters a new organization, new fans, new locker room, new culture, right? And it's not outside the realm of possibility that a person matures and grows from their mistakes. Now, averaged 19.5 points last season, 8.1 assists, and that was a season where he wasn't the same focal point of the offense. The team wasn't as good as what it's been before, right? And I think that the change to Portland gives Ja a chance to really focus just on basketball and hopefully change the conversation and the perception around who he is as a person and as a basketball player. But make no mistake about it, the pressure's still on. People are going to be looking at you, especially for a team in Portland that made the playoffs last year. Yes, they changed the coach. They got some changes there that, ownership issues there as well. But, the questions about his public image and who he is aren't going to go anywhere anytime soon, right? He only played 20 games last season. We can talk about the stats that he was able to put up, but only 20 games last season because of injury. On top of that, you have a very crowded backcourt in Portland where you better be bringing it, because there could be a world in which maybe they feel like they don't need to play you regardless of that contract. You already got Dame coming back there, right, which is going to be huge for them. You got Drew going to be there. You got Scoot Henderson, who, played actually strong in the playoffs last year as well. Like, what is that backcourt rotation going to look like? Shaedon Sharpe is still expected to be in there, some shape, form, or fashion. So, we'll see how that backcourt ends up shaking out. But Ja isn't going into a situation where a team is going to necessarily be looking at him to just be the star. They're not going to do that. And so a fresh start matters, but it matters as much as opportunity, behavior, production. All those things all overlap. And the bigger question does become about this Portland Trailblazers guard room. Like, what what is going to happen with this guard? I have no idea. And you have all point guards that do a little something different. Ja, with his ability to create downhill pressure and pass. Dame Lillard, the shooting, the scoring gravity, the late game shot creation that he has there. Jrue Holiday with his defense, the toughness, the championship pedigree. Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, the youth that they have, the athleticism, the upside, and the future that they hope to have with the Portland Trailblazers. Like, of course, if everyone buys in, you can have a highly dynamic backcourt, but it's only so many minutes to go away. Go around. The fit's messy in regards to that one. Shaedon Sharpe is a player that, had a career year scoring wise. What are you going to minimalize him next season? Ja and Dame both need the ball to be at their best. I don't know how that's going to work. You're not going to play them a lot of minutes together. I have no idea what's going on with this Portland backcourt, but it is going to be something that's very interesting to watch, because when teams don't overthink fit, or maybe this time, like, look at talent and then think that that's going to win out, I'm always interested to see how that works out, because, it can go a lot of different ways. But last topic of the day before we get up out of here, Gary Trent gets a 4-year, $64 million deal to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks. And many people have been asking, is this overpay, stuff like that? Like, I looked at it around. I don't think anybody had Gary Trent Jr. making this much money. Now, one can say for the Bucks, where they are, the fact that they don't have a star, paying somebody like Gary Trent Jr. $16 million a year. He's 27 years old. You use your bird rights to sign him, so it is what it is there. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do in regards to this. Like, cool. He gives the Bucks perimeter shooting. He gives them some scoring depth that they need. Of course, that any team needs. You get to bite on some type of continuity there to stay competitive and stuff like that. But like 4 years, I guess you're looking at it as maybe a movable salary. That's the same thing I kind of said that the Clippers were doing, where they were stacking like contracts of role players or players that could be moved at the deadline for teams that are looking to add something at the trade deadline. Gary Trent Jr. could definitely be that, but he's somebody that averaged 8.1 points per game. He's limited in his rebounding, not really a playmaker as well. A 4-year commitment to that seems like it's the setup to something else and not necessarily the main course, if that makes sense. So we'll see what happens. I would not be surprised if Gary Trent Jr. is moved on this deal, within the first year or two of it, but we'll see what's going to happen. But shout out to Gary Trent Jr. for getting paid, because he was somebody that I thought was going to have to settle for less than the full mid-level exception. He ends up getting more than the mid-level exception, which, again, I think speaks more to where Milwaukee is in their moves and where they are with their roster than Gary Trent Jr.'s value. But hey, I could be wrong on that. I've been wrong before. Maybe there were some other teams that were going to be willing to pay him that much money, and we'll see in regards to that. But let me know what you guys think in regards to all of that. The LaMelo thing, Brandon Miller getting his contract extension. What size contract extension do you think he's going to get? Do you think Ja actually turns a new leaf in Portland? Let me know all that down below. But otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at the Full Court YT. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBACentralShow@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything basketball and NBA related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Breaks Media.